89-year-old Doris Haddock, whose nickname is Granny D, is trying to draw attention to the need for campaign finance reform.
My interest in her was sparked by her walk across America. I mean, it's one of the more remarkable feats in American political history.
I was 89 years old. I had retired. I was living in this little town of 1,400. I live on Social Security and a small pension. And it came to my attention, this little tiny article on the op-ed page. In it, it said that in the middle of the night, 2 senators had added an amendment to this bill requiring a $50 billion tax break to be given to tobacco. And I said, that's crazy. That's corruption. Now, we have always had money in politics, but never like this. That's what started it. I have a group called the Tuesday Morning Academy, a group of retired women who meet every Tuesday morning, and we do exercises from 8:30 to 10.
That one is going to be fun.
After exercising, we would sit down and study. So I got them to study campaign finance reform.
In their research, they discovered there were already campaign finance laws on the books. After the Watergate scandal, Congress limited the amount of money an individual could give directly to a politician. Direct contributions were known as hard money. But there was a loophole. Candidates couldn't take more than $1,000 in hard money from an individual, but their political parties could, and the parties could send unlimited amounts of that money to the candidates. This was called soft money. By the time Doris and her friends learned about it, soft money had become a major campaign finance strategy.
We decided what we would do was to send out a petition to senators in the whole 50 states. But this took us a couple of years. And what we began getting back were cookie-cut letters saying that, dear little old ladies, don't worry about campaign finance reform. It's not really your business. We're taking care of it. And so just relax and have a good time and forget it. And we realized that it was hopeless, that we no longer had access to our senators. They didn't care what we thought.
Doris has lived in the hills of New Hampshire all her life. Married for 62 years, she spent every day of the last 10 years of her marriage caring for her husband as he was slowly dying from Alzheimer's disease.
One morning he woke up and he said, I don't want to live anymore, Doris. Please don't feed me anymore. And he not only wouldn't take food, he wouldn't take water, which is a very hard way to go. He was very brave. I loved him very dearly. And then my oldest and dearest friend had a stroke, and overnight she wasn't able to speak. She lived for another 4 years, and I stood beside her as she died. Then I picked up her old straw hat, and the straw hat that I'm wearing today represents Elizabeth. If you look at your life, you will see that your life is made in acts, and this is my last act. I'd like to make some use of the last of my life. My son was going to the Everglades fishing, and he said, "Why don't you come with me? You are depressed." So I said, "Well, I'm not really depressed, but I'll come." And we saw an old man walking between two towns in the middle of nowhere. You know, I've always thought how wonderful it would be to get up and go on the road. I'd like to keep on going, away from everything. And I said that I was going to walk across the country, hoping to create a wave of interest in campaign finance reform. And my son said, "That's crazy." I said, if I could have anything to do with the problem that we are facing in this country, I'm going to do it. The question was, I was 89 years old, and was I going to be able to do it? And when I found that I could walk 10 miles a day, 6 days a week, I said, why not?
I still assumed that, you know, she wasn't getting across the Mojave Desert. I figured one night curling up with the scorpions and the rattlesnakes on that hard desert floor in the cold would be enough.
I'm doing this for my grandchildren and for all the children in this country who might someday want to run for office. I want to give them back our democracy.
People would say, your mother's going to die out there on the road. And I'd say that if she died doing something that she wanted to do this much, that was all right. It would be most fitting that she died with her boots on and a flag in the air.
Doris Haddock is walking from Pasadena, California, all the way to Washington, D.C.
Granny D is petitioning for an end to the so-called soft money, which can skirt campaign contribution limits. She'll walk for 330 days through 220 cities and towns, covering 3,055 miles.
She's doing about 24 minutes a mile.
With a little arthritis, inflammation, and a touch of emphysema, the odds are against her.
I really have an old body to work with, and I'm pretty well trussed up like a Christmas turkey. The media first thought that I was a stunt, or that somebody was paying me off, or that I was wacky. And my grandsons, they were talking about me and betting on how long I'd be out on the road. I loved the desert because you can see the end of the earth all around you. It's like as if you were walking in the middle of a globe, you know? But it was very difficult. We had several sandstorms, and I had been coughing very badly for 2 weeks. I was finding it pretty hard because I do have emphysema, and suddenly I couldn't breathe at all. I knew I was really in big, big trouble, and all I could think of was, I'm dying, I'm dying. And I went unconscious.
Doris spent 3 days on oxygen in an Arizona hospital. 10 days later, she was back on the road.
I heard that there was a 89-year-old lady who was going to walk across America for campaign finance reform. At the time, I was executive director of Arizona Common Cause. That was one of our big issues. And I thought we ought to be involved. If for no other reason, we couldn't have somebody dying on our deserts for our cause.
Mr. Burke called me, and he said, we young people of Common Cause are willing to take over from now on. We'll take turns and keep your walk going all the way to Washington, D.C. And I said, no one is going to do it for me. I'm going to do it myself.
Even so, with her son Jim back at work in New Hampshire, Doris was grateful for the support. Dennis provided a van to carry water and give her a place to rest while on the road. The illness cost her nearly a month, but she still planned to arrive in Washington in time for a major rally for campaign finance reform.
I get up some mornings and I'm pretty crabby. You know, as you get older, you hurt here and you hurt there. But after a good hot shower, I was amazed how many pains and aches will go. I know I have a very bad time with memory and a very hard time with hearing loss. A lot of physical things, but not enough to say that's it yet.
Come on, children. One more mile. How do you feel about campaign finance reform? Do you know what it is?
I just told a young lady right there I had enough trouble on my own financing right there.
There, so you can take this to school and say, see what I got. Okay.
11 miles today. You went the extra mile today.
Yeah, I went the extra mile. Who's got a 5 from me?
Yeah.
She was still walking through Texas in May,
So where are you from?
in June, and in July.
Ms. Haddock, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Tell us how you are.
Oh, I'm just fine, thank you. Campaign finance reform itself, it doesn't have a very sexy ring to it, you know? And people will come to me and say, I know you're walking, but just what does campaign finance reform mean? And I say, well, it means that I'm trying to get illegal money out of the system. I'm for that, they say, and they've signed a petition. Well, I hope to show them to the Senate when I get there and say, look, you and the media are saying that the people out in this country don't care about campaign finance reform, and it's not true. It's a lie.
Good job, good job.
She's been my mother for 63 years now.
Sometimes, you know, in desolate sections, I'll drive behind her like this, and we'll go for miles and miles and miles. And the hardest thing is to stay awake. And you're saying, my God, I could run over my mother and end the whole thing, you know.
Yes, turn right at the quick print. You'll make it. It's going to work. Okay?
I don't know why I can't just go right straight down there.
Because you might end up at the town dump. We don't know where that goes. We're following Route 180.
All right.
Go ahead. You'll do fine.
And if you were traveling with her, you would put her on the road in the morning, then you'd drive 10 miles down the road and go up to a house and knock on the door and say, hi, my name's Jim Haddock, and you'd show them a local newspaper and say, this is my mother, Granny D. She's walking across the country for campaign finance reform. She travels as a pilgrim. We need a place to sleep and we need food to eat. Can you help us? And most people said yes. Rich people, poor people, beggar men, thieves. We slept in Indian reservations. We slept in a ranch in Texas.
Jim would come whenever he could. He had a job and a wife and children. It was hard for me when he would leave.
Am I going to see you again?
Hopefully.
Okay.
But not this time.
Not.
Yeah, we're going home.
You're going home?
Yeah, we're headed home.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Bye, dear. Bye.
here's this little old lady walking along, and there's nothing anywhere. And so it gets lonesome. So sometimes I sang, sometimes I said poetry, sometimes I made up stories in my head, and I thought about different things. My father was a Lincoln Republican. It means that you are like Lincoln. You believed in honesty, and you never cheated anybody. There were 5 children. I was the second child. I was always small for my age, and that meant you had to fight. I heard my mother say, she's different from all the others. I think she found me much more difficult. I am rather a difficult person. I'm impatient. Sometimes if I was very tired and I was an old woman in my heart and knew it, it was very hard to be Granny D.
Oh, how wonderful. How wonderful.
She is kinder, more poetic than Doris Haddock is. I sort of know when I should behave, and I try very hard to do so. Walking across the country I grew up, I'm not any more radical than I was, but I dare to say it now. I've come to accept myself as I am, yes. When we got to West Virginia and there were 12 inches of snow and there was no way that we could walk on the road, we heard about the C&O Canal. Quickly, I sent for my skis and I skied 100 miles cross-country down the canal in order to get to Washington at the time that I promised I'd be there.
After 14 months, 3,200 miles, and 4 pairs of shoes, Granny D arrived in Washington.
If we choose to be angry, let it be in defense of our standing as a self-governing people.
There is hope in America today because one person can still make a difference. It doesn't matter your age, your size, your strength, your pocketbook. You can still have a great voice. You can still turn out the crowds. You can still inspire America. And Granny D, you're doing it every minute, lady. Thank you.
Granny D has walked her talk, and I think the way we honor your work is for all of us to say today that we will walk our talk and keep on marching and keep on fighting until we eliminate the soft money and the big hard money, and we have clean money and clean elections all across this country.
Her arrival in Washington spotlighted the need for campaign finance reform, but Congress was slow to respond. So Doris went home to New Hampshire.
When I finished my walk, an outfit called the Alliance for Democracy came to me. They said, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, "I'm going to go home and make cookies."
It would be a full year after Doris finished her walk across the country before debate would begin in the Senate on a campaign finance reform bill. Doris returned to Washington, but this time she flew. As she marched around the Capitol, debate began on the campaign finance bill. For 2 weeks as the debate went on, Doris walked circles around the Capitol. Sometimes she walked for 24 hours at a time, stopping only for cat naps or to eat a meal.
I would walk around the Capitol building, sometimes all night long, all day long, so that the senators would have to meet with me if they did not want to see me dead on their doorsteps.
And meet with her they did. Doris met with over half of the U.S. Senate during the debates and became a Washington media celebrity. The Senate voted on the McCain-Feingold bill on the night of April 2nd, 2001. It passed, 59-41.
Doris Haddock represents all that is good in America, and we thank her for her commitment to open, honest government that the American people can be proud of.
But the reform bill was dying in the House of Representatives, where it was buried in a committee.
But just when the bill seemed doomed, the Enron scandal happened. Enron had given millions, of course, to members of Congress. They needed to redeem themselves. There was the reform bill, just sitting there.
Okay, and you're not going to open it up in any committees or anything?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, promise.
All right. Granny D!
And
Oh!
tell him how wonderful I think he is, okay?
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
My boyfriend's a big fan of yours.
Yes. Well, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
The congressman is not here, ma'am.
He's not here.
Can I help you?
Yes. You can give him his downtime and tell him that I understand that he is not in favor of this bill, but that his constituents are. And I know how people feel about this bill in New Hampshire. They want that bill passed. Tell him to please do something about it.
Okay. You may even be better known in my district than I am. Please don't move to the 2nd District of Illinois, all right?
No, I wouldn't do that.
All right.
I love New
So
Hampshire.
I look forward to working with you on this, and we're going to do everything we can to pass this bill.
Oh, bless you.
Okay?
So important.
Granny, thank you for
know how
highlighting this
important
issue.
it is, don't
You've
you?
done a great job.
At 3 a.m. on Valentine's Day, 3 years and 1 month after Granny D started her walk, soft money was finally banned. But the victory was brief. There were loopholes in the new law, too, and Granny D was determined to expose them. Her efforts did not go unnoticed.
I have been receiving a lot of hate mail, calling me 4-letter words, and in a quite limited vocabulary. The first one I saw was a shock to me, and I broke into tears, but then I stiffened my back and said, well, if it's too hot in the kitchen, get out. But I'm not going to get out of the kitchen quite yet.
In 2004, at the age of 94, Doris ran for the United States Senate from New Hampshire.
For those who may be concerned about my age, let me say that I have outlived most of the things that can kill me.
She accepted only public money for her campaign, no private donations, and still received 34% of the vote. Granny D is still traveling the country, but now as an author and as a popular public speaker.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Granny D.
You are so important because what we are doing in this country is going to be your legacy. Listen to the news and understand what is going on, and if there's a place where you can do something by sending a letter or an email, do it. Don't be afraid. Do it. Get involved. You have one life to live. One life that goes so fast. So why not use it to advantage?